What if the reason you have been feeling overlooked, forgotten, or alone is not because you have been abandoned, but because someone, somewhere, needs the very strength you thought you had lost? What if your presence means more than you realize? What if the moments you considered meaningless were actually shaping you into the person someone will one day need? Chosen one, listen carefully. There are moments in life when you look around and wonder, does anyone really need me? Does my life make a difference? Would anyone even notice if I stopped trying? Maybe you have smiled while carrying pain that nobody knew about. Maybe you have encouraged others while secretly wishing someone would encourage you. Maybe you have been there for people who were never there for you. And after giving so much of yourself, you may have reached a place where you feel completely empty. But do not allow your loneliness to convince you that you are useless. Sometimes the people who feel the least important are the ones whose presence has quietly made the greatest difference. You may not see the impact you have had on someone. You may never know how one conversation changed someone's perspective. You may never know how a simple message gave someone enough strength to make it through another difficult night. You may never know how your kindness reached a person at the exact moment they were questioning whether anyone cared. And that is the strange thing about purpose. Purpose does not always announce itself. Sometimes it looks like answering a phone call when you are tired. Sometimes it looks like listening to someone without judging them. Sometimes it looks like forgiving when you had every reason to become bitter. Sometimes it looks like staying kind after life gave you plenty of reasons to become cold. You may be waiting for something extraordinary to happen before you believe your life has meaning. You may think purpose has to look like success, recognition, money, influence, or some massive breakthrough. But perhaps your purpose is already appearing in smaller moments. Perhaps someone needs the patience you developed through your own pain. Perhaps someone needs the wisdom you gained from the mistakes you survived. Perhaps someone needs the compassion you learned because you know what it feels like to be misunderstood. Perhaps someone needs to hear the exact words you once needed to hear. And maybe this is why some seasons of your life have been so difficult. Not because every painful experience was sent for a specific person, but because the things you survive can sometimes become sources of empathy, wisdom, and strength that you can offer others. Think about it. The person who has experienced rejection understands the lonely person. The person who has experienced failure understands the person who is afraid to try again. The person who has cried in secret understands the person who smiles in public. The person who has felt forgotten understands the person who desperately wants to be seen. Your scars do not make you worthless. They can become reminders that you understand pain, and because you understand pain, you can choose compassion instead of judgment. Chosen one, there may be someone in your world right now who does not need a perfect person. They may simply need someone genuine, someone who will listen, someone who will not laugh at their weakness, someone who will remind them that one bad season does not define an entire life. And perhaps you have been thinking that you have nothing to offer because you do not feel strong right now. But strength does not always mean having all the answers. Sometimes strength is simply saying, I am here. Sometimes it is checking on someone. Sometimes it is sending a message. Sometimes it is sitting quietly beside someone who has no words. Sometimes it is praying for someone without ever telling them. Never underestimate what simple kindness can do. You might think it was just a few words, while someone else remembers those words years later. You might think your encouragement was ordinary, while someone else heard it as the reason they decided not to give up on themselves. You might think your presence was insignificant, while someone else felt less alone because you stayed. That is why you must be careful about believing the lie that nobody needs you. You do not know what is happening inside the hearts of the people around you. There are people who hide their struggles extremely well. They laugh, they work, they post pictures, they tell everyone they are fine. But privately, they may be exhausted. Privately, they may be wondering if anybody would notice their silence. And sometimes, the person who needs encouragement will never have the courage to ask for it. So do not become so focused on your own unanswered questions that you stop noticing the people around you. This does not mean you must save everyone. You are not responsible for fixing every person you meet. You cannot carry every burden. You cannot heal every wound. And you should never destroy your own peace trying to rescue people who refuse help. But you can remain compassionate. You can remain available when it is healthy and wise. You can choose to be the kind of person whose presence brings peace instead of unnecessary pain. And perhaps that is part of what God has been developing inside you. Maybe you wondered why certain experiences taught you patience. Maybe you wondered why you had to learn forgiveness. Maybe you wondered why you became more sensitive to the pain of others. Maybe you wondered why you could recognize sadness behind a smile. There may not be an immediate answer to every question, but you do not need to understand the entire story before you live the next right moment. So if someone comes into your life and needs encouragement, do not automatically assume it is an inconvenience. If someone reaches out after a long silence, listen carefully. If someone seems different, ask if they are okay. If you feel prompted to show kindness, do it without expecting applause. And if you can help someone safely and appropriately, do not underestimate the value of that moment. Because one day, you may discover that the thing you considered small was meaningful to someone else. Chosen one, perhaps you have been asking, when will someone finally need me? But maybe the better question is, who around me might need a little kindness today? That question changes everything, because your value does not begin when someone recognizes you. Your purpose does not begin when the world applauds you. And your life does not become meaningful only after some dramatic breakthrough. You matter even in the quiet season. You matter when nobody is watching. You matter when your plans are delayed. You matter when you feel uncertain. And you may have no idea whose life has been touched, simply because you continued to be kind when you were hurting. So do not disappear just because you feel unseen. Do not close your heart because some people failed to appreciate you. Do not allow yesterday's rejection to determine tomorrow's purpose. Keep walking, keep growing, keep becoming wiser. Keep your heart soft, but keep your boundaries strong. And most importantly, remain attentive to the moments placed in front of you, because you may be looking for a sign that your life has meaning, while someone else may already be living with the evidence that you made a difference. And there is something you need to understand before this message ends. Sometimes you are not only being prepared to become a source of strength for someone else. Sometimes the very person you are meant to help may also become part of a chapter that changes your own life. And that is where the story becomes even deeper. Maybe you have been waiting for someone to recognize your worth. But what if this season is teaching you something different? What if you are being reminded that your value was never dependent on who stayed, who left, who noticed you, or who failed to appreciate you? Chosen one, there may come a moment when someone enters your life carrying a burden you cannot see, and the only thing they may need from you is a little patience, a little kindness, and a reminder that they are not alone. Do not ignore those moments. Sometimes God does not give us a dramatic sign. Sometimes the opportunity arrives quietly. It may be a message from someone you have not heard from in months. It may be a conversation you almost decided not to have. It may be someone sitting quietly while everyone else is laughing. It may be a person who suddenly begins pulling away, even though they keep saying they are fine. Paid attention, not with fear, not with obsession, not by assuming every coincidence has a supernatural meaning. Simply pay attention with compassion, because people do not always say what they are going through. Some people become silent when they are hurting. Some become distant. Some become unusually cheerful because they do not want anyone to ask questions. Some keep helping everyone else because they are afraid to admit that they need help themselves. And perhaps you know what that feels like. Perhaps you have been that person. You have said, "I'm okay," while your heart was exhausted. You have answered, "Nothing is wrong," because explaining everything felt too difficult. You have smiled because you did not want anyone to see how deeply you were hurting. That is why your compassion can be powerful. You know what it feels like to hide pain. You know what it feels like to be misunderstood. You know what it feels like to desperately want someone to notice without having the courage to ask them to stay. So when someone around you seems different, do not immediately judge them. You do not know what battle they may be fighting. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is simply, "I'm here if you need someone." You may never know what those words mean to them. But there is something equally important that you must remember. Being there for someone does not mean destroying yourself for them. You are not required to carry everyone. You are not responsible for healing every broken heart. You cannot become someone's entire source of strength. You can encourage them, but you cannot make their choices for them. You can listen, but you cannot solve every problem. You can pray for them, but you cannot control their journey. And having boundaries does not make you selfish. Sometimes wisdom is knowing when to help and when to step back. Sometimes love means supporting someone without allowing their chaos to destroy your peace. So if someone needs you, give what you can give with a sincere heart, but do not forget yourself in the process. Your purpose should not require you to lose your identity. Your kindness should not require you to accept disrespect. Your compassion should not require you to remain where you are constantly being wounded. There is a difference between being a light for someone and allowing someone to consume your light. Chosen one, perhaps the reason this message found you is not because you need to search desperately for a mysterious person. Perhaps it is simply a reminder to become more aware of the opportunities already around you. Look at the people in your life. Who have you not checked on recently? Who has been unusually quiet? Who always encourages everyone else but rarely talks about themselves? Who might simply need to hear that they are appreciated? You do not have to make a grand gesture. Share the message. Make the call. Listen without interrupting. Offer encouragement. Forgive where forgiveness is appropriate. Show kindness without expecting something in return. Sometimes purpose hides inside ordinary moments. And remember this: you may never receive proof that your kindness mattered. The person you encouraged may never come back and tell you. The person you helped may move forward and forget the exact conversation. The person you prayed for may never know you prayed. But that does not make your kindness meaningless. Do good because it reflects who you are becoming, not because you need applause. There will also be moments when you are the one who needs someone, and when that happens, do not be ashamed. You are allowed to need support. You are allowed to admit that you are tired. You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to say, "I don't know what to do." Being needed by others does not mean you must always be strong. Even the strongest person needs encouragement sometimes. Maybe you have spent so much time being the person everyone depends on that you forgot you deserve support too. So do not reject genuine help when it comes your way. Sometimes the same life that teaches you how to comfort others also teaches you how to receive comfort. And perhaps that is the deeper lesson. You are not here simply to be needed. You are here to live, grow, learn, love wisely, and become the person you are capable of becoming. Some people will be helped by your presence. Some people will teach you through their presence. Some will stay for a season. Some will stay longer. And some will leave. Do not measure your purpose by who remains. Before it by the character you build through every season. Chosen one, do not let rejection make you believe you are unwanted. Do not let loneliness convince you that you have no purpose. Do not let one person's inability to appreciate you become the definition of your worth. There is still good you can do. There are still people you can encourage. There are still moments you can influence. There are still chapters of your life you have not seen. So walk forward with an open heart and a wise mind. Be kind, but do not be naive. Be loving, but do not abandon your boundaries. Help others, but do not forget to take care of yourself. And when someone genuinely needs you, do not run simply because you are afraid of being hurt again. You do not have to be perfect to make a difference. Sometimes all you need is a willing heart and the courage to say, you do not have to face this moment completely alone. Maybe you thought this message was about finding out who needs you, but perhaps it was really about remembering who you are. You are not invisible. You are not insignificant. You are not defined by the people who walked away. Your story is still being written, and somewhere in the ordinary moments ahead, there may be an opportunity for you to make someone's difficult day a little lighter. When that moment comes, recognize it. Do not ignore it. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the moment someone remembers for the rest of their life. And perhaps one day, when you look back at your journey, you will realize that the moments you thought were insignificant were some of the moments that mattered most.